Okay, is everybody ready? Lieutenant Governor's not here this morning because she's attending national lieutenant governors and Republican lieutenant governors meetings in Washington, D.C. this week. With spring officially here, we wanted to talk about severe weather this morning. I've asked Mark Scouten, Director of the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, to join me, along with Joyce Flynn, Chief of the Department's Operations Division, to talk to Iowans about what they can do to prepare for severe weather and how the state of Iowa is preparing. I've issued a proclamation declaring this week, March 21st to the 25th, as Severe Weather Awareness Week to increase awareness on being prepared for the severe weather that spring oftentimes brings to the state of Iowa. During Severe Weather Awareness Week, the Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the National Weather Service, and local emergency management agencies join together to promote awareness of severe weather. As many of you know, we've had a bout of severe weather just last Tuesday in Clinton County when straight line winds, heavy rains, and large hail caused property damage, utility disruptions, and some minor injuries. This storm, and I did declare that a state disaster, this storm and the damage it caused are reminders that time is now to get ready for severe weather this year. Each day during Severe Weather Awareness Week, a different topic will be featured, including severe thunderstorms, weather warnings, tornadoes, family preparedness, and flash floods. On Wednesday of this week is the statewide tornado drill, and I'm urging Iowa schools, businesses, and state and local governments, as well as individuals, to participate. You can find more information on the tornado drill on the local National Weather Service websites. This is an ideal time to learn about or review information on the types of severe weather we have in Iowa and to take steps to be prepared to take care of yourselves and your families. Iowa is no stranger to disasters. In the past 10 years, 225 governor's proclamations have been issued for everything from floods, tornadoes, to blizzards and ice storms. In fact, Iowa is ranked the fourth highest in the nation in the number of presidential disaster designations received with 23, and ranked as the fifth highest in the terms of total federal disaster funding received, putting us even ahead of New York and California. The devastating statewide flooding in 2008 resulted in Iowa receiving the ninth largest dollar amount to replace and rebuild public infrastructure for any disaster other than hurricanes, the, the 1994 Northridge, California earthquake, and the 2001 terrorist attacks. $2.4 billion in disaster recovery funding has come to Iowa in the past 10 years to help our communities get back on their feet. Unfortunately, disasters in our state have also resulted in loss of life. In the past 10 years, it's been estimated that more than 20 disaster-related deaths occurred and more than 130 people were injured. In the past 30 years, more than 60 fatalities have occurred in Iowa due to lightning alone. It is human nature to think that nothing bad is going to happen to us. But of course, bad things do happen. And while we can't always prevent them, we can be ready to take care of ourselves and our families in the event of a disaster. Putting just a little thought into how we stay safe can make a big difference in a time of emergency. I urge all Iowans to make sure that they have taken steps to be prepared for severe weather that could strike at any time, and to learn more about individual and family preparedness at www.beready.iowa.gov. Now, I'm pleased to turn it over to Director Mark Scouten.
Thank you very much, Governor Branstad. At Iowa Homeland Security and Emergency Management, our job is to encourage Iowa and Iowans to be prepared and ready to respond to emergencies and disasters. We are at the beginning of severe weather season. It's almost certain that we will see bad weather again this year. So I echo Governor Branstad's message that now is the time to take steps to be prepared for spring severe weather. All disasters are essentially local events, and your safety will largely depend upon how well you yourself are prepared. There are three simple and important steps everyone can take today to be prepared. The first step is to make an emergency plan. Sit down with your family and talk about what you'll do if there is a severe weather alert issued for your area or if there is an imminent weather danger. Choose an emergency contact for your family members so they'll be able to check in case you're separated by a disaster. And don't forget to make plans for those with special needs, such as elderly family members, or also for your pets. The second step is to build an emergency supply kit. During an emergency, there are items you and your family will probably need, so keep a kit at home and in your car in case you must shelter in place or quickly evacuate your home. That kit might include these types of items: water and non-perishable food, a first aid kit, a battery-operated flashlight and radio along with extra batteries, special items depending on what you might need, such as prescription medications, baby formula, diapers, and pet food, copies of important documents, such as birth certificates and insurance information. Step three is probably the most important step. Be aware of hazards facing you. The most important thing you can do is to stay aware of the potential for bad weather in your area, and when weather alerts are issued, act quickly to stay safe. There are many ways to become weather aware. You can tune into your local TV and your radio stations. A NOAA Weather Radio is a tool that can help you keep an eye on the weather when you're at home, camping, or boating. Maybe one of the best tools you can use to become weather aware is this: your cell phone. Use it to receive emergency alerts. Iowa has an emergency alert system called Alert Iowa. It's a mass notification system that enables state and local emergency management officials and law enforcement to provide timely emergency notification to the public over your cell phone. With Iowa Alert or Alert Iowa, potentially life-saving information comes right to you on your cell phone, wherever you are and whatever you might be doing. Excuse me. Currently, 79 counties have the ability to issue phone, text, or email messages via Alert Iowa. Since the system went live in October of 2014, more than 2.5 million notifications have been sent out. Alert Iowa can be used to issue all sorts of emergency notifications, including notifications dealing with severe weather, 911 outages, road closures, boil advisories, and hazard material spills. To find out if your county is using Alert Iowa and to learn other preparedness tips, you can contact your local emergency manager or visit our website, www.homelandsecurity.iowa.gov. So take a few minutes today and think about what you can do to keep yourself and your family safe during a disaster. Remember, citizens who take steps to keep themselves safe during a disaster are an important part of the overall preparedness of our state. Now, Joyce Flynn, our department's Chief Operations Director for Disaster Response, will talk with you about the preparations that the state of Iowa is taking for severe weather.
Good morning. Thank you, Director Scouten. I echo the message of both Governor Branstad and Director Scouten. Now's the time to get prepared for severe weather we will likely experience this spring. Every spring, the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Department is in close communication with our response partners gathering and sharing information, and planning for potential flooding and severe weather threats. Homeland Security's job is to ensure Iowa and Iowans are prepared, ready to respond, and have the tools to recover from the impacts of those disaster events. We began preparing for potential severe weather and flooding in February, coordinating with local, state, and federal partners. Preparations include doing an inventory of response resources and discussing any changes in response capabilities that could impact our ability to respond to the consequences of severe weather if it were to occur. A key partner at this time of year is the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service provides several spring flood outlooks to agencies that are instrumental in a flood response. Those include the Governor's Office, local emergency management, and state agency partners. Local emergency managers are a critical partner at all times, but especially during disasters. Homeland Security serves a coordinating role during the response to a disaster, responding to resource requests from local emergency managers, and those requests may include items such as sandbags, debris removal, and personnel. To assist local emergency managers and first responders, we have pre-positioned pumps and generators throughout the state, providing immediate access to these critical response resources. Currently, there are 29 pumps and 17 generators pre-staged throughout the state. Homeland Security staff, along with local emergency management partners and first responders, are trained, experienced, and can immediately begin coordination and response to any size of disaster event. Homeland Security coordinates the state response to disasters from the State Emergency Operations Center located at the Joint Forces Headquarters in Johnston. We remain ready at all times to coordinate a response that includes our state, federal, voluntary, and faith-based partners, as well as private sector partners. In addition to preparing for severe weather, we continue to coordinate with the Iowa Department of Ag and Land Stewardship for a possible avian influenza response. Our preparations for avian influenza include pre-staging of equipment around the state that can be used in the euthanasia of birds. The ready access to this equipment will aid in quick, humane euthanasia to help contain the spread of the disease. Disaster preparedness is a partnership, not just between government and responders, but with citizens as well, who must be ready to take care of themselves and those they love in an emergency. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we would open it to questions you have on this subject. I want to thank Joyce Flynn and Director Mark Scouten for their participation this morning. Any questions? Well, we're trying to be as well prepared as we can be. I don't know if you have any inside information on this, Mark. I don't. They had a little outbreak, I think, in Indiana. We have not had any in this state this year, and we're hopeful that we won't, but we need to be prepared. I think we learned a lot from the experience. This is the first time we'd had a disaster of this magnitude involving farm animals or livestock, or in this case, poultry, last year. And I think we learned a lot from that experience, and we improved the coordination between the USDA and emergency management, Homeland Security emergency management, and other agencies on the state level. And because of that experience, I think we're much better prepared. And as you heard, we've already got key things deployed around the state in preparation. In the event that were occur, we certainly hope that it will not be, and we're trying to do everything we can to prevent it. Other questions?
On that point, we did partner with agriculture, some additional funds to help public our food stamp.
Right. And as you know, in terms of the budget is extremely tight. We just had the revenue estimate come out here, reducing the revenue estimate. We want to work with the legislature in dealing with the financial realities of the fact that Iowa and the bird flu and the reduction in farm income is certainly one of the factors that's made it a more difficult budgeting year. We didn't have a problem with the fall migration.
Right, so are you now focusing
Well, that's a good question. Mark, you want to try to handle that? Obviously, we didn't have a problem with fall, but we did last spring.
Yeah, I think their concern is that the chances of having an outbreak in the spring are greater than there were in the fall. As the governor indicated, was an outbreak in Indiana. We had nothing here in Iowa, but IDOLS, the Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, and Homeland Security Emergency Management certainly are preparing for an outbreak should one occur.
Your expenditure limitation went down.
Right.
So did your budget as a result. What will have to be cut?
Well, we're going to be working with the legislature on that matter. We know that the legislature and their subcommittees are already working, and we want to try to coordinate our recommendations with what they're working on. So it's a challenge for everybody. And obviously we want to do something that fits with the goals of the legislative leadership to live with and by law, they have to live with, and we have to live with the March revenue estimate, which was lower than the estimate that I based my budget on in December. Well, that's what we're going to talk to legislative leaders about. This is a very sensitive issue, and it's one that we want to try to work with them. I know they've been in conference committee on this issue for months, and we want to try to work out something that will be a consensus, recognizing nobody likes the reduction, but it is something we have the responsibility to live with. We have always balanced the budget, and ever since spending limitations were passed back when I was governor in the 1980s, we've lived with it, and we're going to live with it, and we want to do that with the collaboration of both houses of the legislature.
So a few weeks ago, when you said superintendent should plan for 2.45, that's no longer your advice.
Well, I think within the near future, we'll have an agreement worked out with the House and the Senate. I know they were close to an agreement before I left, and I was gone, as you know, for spring break with my grandchildren and my daughter and my wife. But my staff has kept me informed, and I'm aware of the fact that an agreement has been reached on the coupling issue, and they were close to an agreement. And now, obviously, they have to deal with the realities of this March revenue estimate. We want to work in cooperation with them to deal with that in the best way that we can.
So in some instances, I think it was the Senate or the House about that perhaps in the future there will be the opportunity to do more tax coupling, not just for 2015. But I know that earlier you had insisted that it really can only be for this year. Will there be leeway in the future?
Well, it all depends upon revenue, but right now, with farm income down for a third year in a row, and we've seen layoffs by John Deere and others, and now revenue has been reduced. I think we got to be very careful and very cautious about making commitments that we cannot afford. One of the reasons that I came back and ran for governor again is to stop bad budgeting practices and making promises that we can't keep. And so we're going to be very cautious and careful and live with the spending limitations. And with the decision that's been made on coupling to a great degree, the balance over and above what we have in the cash reserve and economic emergency account is being reduced substantially. So our margin for error is not very great. So we've got to be very careful. And that's why it's a delicate situation that we need to work together on with the legislature. I'm committed to doing that.
It sounds like you're going to sign a coupling that you still can afford that.
Well, that is an agreement. It's a compromise agreement that's been worked out between both houses of the legislature. I've been kept informed on that, and yes, I do intend to sign that piece of legislation. It's on its way to me, and yet I recognize the fact that that does reduce the ending balance, and it makes our situation, especially with the reduction in the March revenue estimate, a critical situation that we have to be very careful in terms of making other commitments over and above what's been agreed to.
Governor, there's an anniversary coming up, 25 years since the first, riverboat gaming in Iowa. Do you think gaming has been good for the state?
Well, it's something the people of Iowa wanted. And I think on an issue of this, be it the lottery or gaming, it's something Iowans wanted. My concern was I wanted to protect the integrity of the state. So we built in significant safeguards. And I'm proud to say that it's been well managed, it's been honest, and we've kept corruption out. That's not the case in many other states. And so I think we can be proud of that. And the lottery recently was successful in prosecuting somebody that tried to cheat on it. And now other states are learning from our experience, and our other actions are being taken from those that tried to cheat, whether it's riverboat, in which is now no longer riverboats, now it's gaming on land-based. But the fact that we have required the licenses to be held by nonprofits, and that there be a referendum in the county so that the people in that county support it, and that we do very significant background checks to keep people with criminal records and people that might be a risk to the honesty and the integrity of the system out, I think shows that it has been a significant success in Iowa. It has also helped with revitalization of a number of communities where it's located, and there's huge contributions that have been made to nonprofits in the state of Iowa as a result of it. So when you look at the whole picture, the other concern I had was problem gambling, and we require a certain amount of money go to Bets Off and other programs to deal with the gambling addictions and other issues. So if you look at the whole picture, it's not been without controversy, but I think it's been well managed. And everybody that I've appointed to the Racing Commission, I've had a personal interview with to make sure that they recognize their primary responsibility is to protect the integrity of the state. And I think the integrity of the state has been protected for this 25 years.
Does it give you concern that cheating started here in Iowa and for?
No, it started elsewhere. We're the first ones that caught it.
Well, but Muscle was here.
I understand, but this guy was involved in cheating in other states and they didn't detect it. Iowa did, and Iowa was careful not to pay it out to an anonymous individual. And so I think it says a lot for both Ed Stanek and Terry Rich, who have run the lottery since its conception. Ed Stanek came to me before the lottery was ever approved and said, you know, Governor, if you decide to sign a lottery, I'll manage it and you'll never have to worry about the integrity of it. And I'm proud to say that the Iowa lottery has been managed that way from its get-go, from the beginning. And as you know, Ed Stanek also started Lotto America and what's the big game? The Powerball. And those have been great successes. And the result was, instead of people going to Illinois to buy their tickets and sending me their spent tickets, we have Illinois people coming here and buying tickets. So yeah, it has changed the whole outcome.
I found a riverboat who said that there was significant safeguards.
Right.
The other one was a $500 limit on winnings. That's a long time. Was that not a significant safeguard that we no longer have?
Well, one of the problems that was pointed out by people that are more knowledgeable about gaming than I am is that this gave an advantage to the House and against the individual participant. And so the legislature, after a few years, made that change. And other changes have been made as well over time to modernize and be more efficient. But the basic integrity that we've insisted on, and that is that the license be held by nonprofits, that they make substantial contributions to charities in the area, that they work on revitalization and economic development in the communities where they're located. All of those things, plus a local option vote for its creation, have all been, I think, successful safeguards. Plus the significant background checks and the strict way in which we enforce the law. So if somebody that's underage or somebody that's intoxicated is involved, we enforce it.
Well, wasn't that, you said that when they got rid of the limit, it was because it favored housing.
Right.
Wasn't it really?
No.
Because in order to be competitive with Illinois, and haven't all these other changes been as a result, I mean, they should not have been foreseen that it's inevitably gonna open up to.
I don't think, maybe you have a crystal ball that tells what the future is going to be like, but I certainly don't. And I think the people in the legislature, as well as myself, have learned a lot over the years. And you know, we have DCI agents at every one of these facilities. And they've been very strict and they've been very successful in protecting the integrity of the state. And that's what it was all about. And to say that we could foresee all of the problems that could possibly come up, no. I mean, when I look back and I say we had a lot of foresight and build a significant amount of safeguards in place, and the experience we've had over the 25 years, I think, has been successful. And again, it's up to the individual. Nobody has to gamble. Nobody has to buy a lottery ticket. So it's an individual choice.
I want to get your take on the Supreme Court's ruling last week doing the open meetings, especially at the local level. Do you think that was appropriate, or did they go too far in doing the meetings that don't have forums?
Well, I haven't had the chance to analyze and review that decision. My general feeling is, and as you know, I was an advocate for the Iowa Public Information Board, and I feel that Public Information Board has done a lot to answer questions and resolve issues involving local governments with regard to open meetings and open records. So I think we've made significant progress, and I'll be glad to give an answer once I've had a chance to review this. But I really haven't had a chance to review the Iowa Supreme Court decision yet. I generally come down on the side of the more open we can be, the better. I do recognize there are certain things that need to be kept confidential to protect the safety or the the privacy of individuals. So it's a delicate balance.
You don't think the law needs to be clarified? This is a pretty long-standing practice by local governments that they felt that if they didn't have a forum, they were safe and and there was a feeling by people like me that local governments might have been abusing that practice.
Well, again, I want to review the court decision and then discuss this with the people that are knowledgeable on us and on this issue. Bill Monroe is my transparency advisor. I want to visit with him. I want to talk to others and then determine whether or not we need to do something to clarify the law. But it's probably too late to deal with that this session anyway. So it's something we'll have some time to review and study and decide whether we want to make a recommendation for the next session.
Barbara, last question.
There's been some public calls within the state, including your former lieutenant governor, for Senator Chuck Grassley to at least take up some hearings regarding the U.S. Supreme Court nomination. What do you think?
Well, first of all, let me say that I support Senator Grassley. I think he's done a phenomenal job. I'm really proud that we've got a farmer from Iowa as the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. He's worked hard over a long period of time to achieve this level, and I respect his thought making. First of all, he's got a lot more expertise and knowledge on this than I do or anyone else, and I respect that the decision he's made. I would also comment that the individual that's been nominated for the Supreme Court is Merrick Garland, who's my second cousin. And I met him for the first time when we were at the National Governors Meeting in February. He's a very wonderful guy. We met, he and his wife. My wife and I had breakfast with them on a Sunday morning. And I don't know a lot about his record, but I do recognize he's a very dedicated, conscientious public servant. So we share that in common. We also share an interesting heritage. And I learned some things about my family that I didn't know. I always thought they came from Riga. And actually, our great grandfather was from Lithuania, right next to Latvia. And Merrick Garland's father, Max Garland, and my grandfather, Louis Garland. And by the way, the name in Latvia or Lithuania was Gallan, Gallan, not Garland. And they came to England. They worked their way across Northern Europe. And there was another brother that stayed, and a sister, I guess, that stayed in England. But they came across between 1900 and 1910. And then they came to America in 1910. Merrick Garland's father was born in Council Bluffs. My mother was born in Burlington. You know, I knew of the family, but I'd never met him before. He brought me this handwritten family tree, which we had some wonderful discussions. And I'm proud of him, but I also respect and appreciate and support Senator Grassley in his position. So thank you very much. You want to see that? Yeah, here it is. Yeah, the family tree.